Hello, folks. Welcome to another episode of 25 to 1, where I chronicle the journey of taking my ecom business from $25,000 a year in revenue to 1 million. If you guys were waiting for the update on my weekly goals, I'll be posting that video tomorrow, and I'm pretty excited about what I have planned for it. Today, I wanted to take a minute to talk about something else that I've been noticing in my ecom growth journey that keeps coming up time and time again. A lot of advertisers setting a minimum bar for how they can help you. I keep seeing advertisements that offer a lot of explosive growth one way or another, be it better ads management, better marketing, better creative, but they often have the caveat at the end of their ads, at the end of their videos, that create a barrier to entry that's too high for me. So it could be something like, if you're making $50,000 a month or more, then click on the link below. So one of the ones that I've been seeing in various corners of their very wide ads blast radius is by a guy named Davey Fogarty. And he has a program called Daily Mentor. So I went, I'd seen him a few times. I decided to go ahead and go to the website, dailymentor.co, and see what the program was about. I saw some very convincing social proof of things that he had done with other businesses and other folks. And it seemed pretty legit to me and also seemed interesting. So I go to Daily Mentor and listen to Davey speak for about 10 to 15 minutes about how he's got this crack team of ecom Avengers. There's a logistics guy, there's a marketing guy, there's a creative guy, and they're the best. And they've all grown businesses from nothing to over 10 hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So this is exactly the kind of thing that I thought I needed and wanted, which was access to people who have been where I've been and who can help me get to where they are. So of course, the hook at the end comes as exactly what I was saying earlier. You have to be making $1 million a year in revenue. And I was thinking, why is that? Why do every one of these ads, these companies that are offering to be an outsourced agency or to 10x your business within 6 months, what do they all require you to essentially be successful already? Well, here are 5 reasons why I think and I believe the landscape looks the way it does. So I'll speak specifically about my impressions of Daily Mentor. I don't think it's a scam. I do think it probably is worth it, but there are reasons why I'm just going to focus on this program because it's the one that I actually spent the most time listening to ads about. But number one reason is just the cost. So the Daily Mentor program is advertised at about $2,500 per month just to be in there. And I did some other research online and saw that they get that price down to like $1,700 or $1,800 a month. So if you're the kind of business where I am right now, if I'm spending thousands of dollars per month on ads, thousands more on inventory, the Daily Mentor program is kind of a luxury. So I really need to be hitting some pretty high numbers in order for them to charge me that, and in order for me to be willing to part with that, with those discretionary funds, essentially. So the cost itself kind of leads to needing to be very, very profitable. Number two is the time dedication. At least in the case of Daily Mentor, it's a 12-month program, from what I understand. And if you're going to dedicate time to do that, you're probably not doing your ecom business as a side hustle, right? This is what you're focused on. So the time dedication to both the program and to your business is a prerequisite. And if you're going to be making $1 million, then it's probably going to be your full-time job. Right now, it's my side hustle. It's something that I intend to get to being my full-time job. But right now, I have a full-time job that I have to use time to do this, working around that. Number three is that by the time I think you're looking to 10x $1 million business, you're probably going to need to speak a certain language, right? Right now, I have inventory working out of my friend's basement in Illinois. So I have no idea what it's like to pay a 3PL, a third party logistics company, for those of you who are looking to expand your vote. That's only one of the things that I know is coming up at some point if I'm going to 10x my business, that I don't know how to do yet. So when you get to the level of the best of ecom, the best marketers, the best logistics and supply guys, they're going to expect to talk to someone who at least understands what it is that they're saying, right? They don't want to have to teach you from 0 to 1. So I think that there's also an expectation that if you're running $1 million a year business, then you've got the same kind of lexicon that they can work with. I have a quick side story. The guy who I just mentioned, my friend Keith, whose basement all my inventory is in, he and I had this argument for a long time about what it would take to get excellent at something in the quickest amount of time. My argument is that you needed to incrementally train with people. Let's use tennis as an example. You need to train with people who are slightly better than you, but not at Serena Williams level. His argument was that the stronger and better your opponent is, the higher level they are against you, then the more you're going to learn. And I just kept saying, like, and we've ever since, after 15 years, we've come to a more mutual understanding. Because my argument was that if you're playing Serena Williams and you're a beginning tennis player, you're never going to be able to return the ball. So what are you really learning if you can't even practice? Whereas if I'm a beginner practicing with someone who at least I can volley with, I'm getting at least an incremental level better than I was, or that I would be playing against Serena Williams for an entire day, right? So I think that that's kind of the same thing here, right? We can't have the best in breed e-com mentors talking to someone who is learning how to set up their Shopify page or an email marketing campaign for the first time, right? Number four is that to get to $1 million in revenue requires you to bootstrap in some way. Like you're going to have to figure out how to get there at some point, right? Right now, what the harsh reality kind of is that I don't really need mentors. I know what I have to do, but once I get to the 1 million point, I know that what got me from $25,000 a year to 1 million is not going to be the same thing that gets me from 1 million to 100 million. Those are going to be a completely different set of skills, right? Maybe what I can do from now to 1 million is researchable. I can find it on YouTube and I can join some local groups or something. But from 1 million to 100 million is a different ballgame where almost necessitates the use of some sort of mentor, some sort of social program that does give you access to these people who are the best in their fields. Number five, and kind of what it all rolls up into, is that in order for them to charge $2,500 for a program, they're only going to want to be talking to people who are willing to dish out that kind of money, right? So it is this idea that they only want to sell their high ticket items to people who are willing to pay that price. They don't want to get on a phone call with me where I have to hem and haw about whether or not $2,500 is something I can maybe put on a credit card and worry about paying off, right? So at the end of the day, they want those clients that are high value clients because they're trying to sell a high value ticket item to them. And that necessitates having a high level of income. So it's a little funny for me to think that my high ambition of going from 25 to 1 million is to me kind of like a pie in the sky kind of dream. Hopefully I can do it. I'm going to work hard and fingers crossed that with enough blood, sweat and tears I'll get there. And that there for me is their bare minimum. They're not even looking at me until I can get to 1 million, right? So these guys are talking about scaling from 1 million to 10 million, 10 million to 100 million. So I don't know what the world will look like for me when I get there, but these advertisements and what I'm seeing make it very clear that it's a completely different ballgame. But it is funny. I mentioned joining a local group, and I did go on meetup.com to see if there were local e-com groups, and there were. I found one. It was great, and they meet once a week. And so I was looking at when their next meetup was going to be. I read the description, and again, you cannot join this meetup group if you're making less than $50,000 per month in your e-com store. So it's like it's just another avenue that just got blocked, right? So where does that leave me and people like me? Well, there are two places where I see this has kind of left me. One is in particular on episode 4 of a 27 episode series on Facebook, or I'm sorry, on YouTube on Facebook marketing. So free training is where it leaves me. And whatever else I can gather from the internet that's either free or relatively cheap or at a price point that I think the investment will be worth the outcome. So looking at, again, kind of bootstrapping my growth in my own way, finding resources that are at my level, I can tell you that there probably are not going to be many resources that specifically talk about the steps you need to take to get from 10 million to 100 million. Two, the other place where that leaves me is something I alluded to in my last video was something I'm referring to as at least my e-commerce flywheel, which is developing ideas on my own, looking at the patterns in my own practices, what I struggle with, the products that I'm trying to get more exposure to, and thinking about how I can structure and organize my thoughts around the steps I need to take or how to approach certain problems in a little more of an organized way. So, creating your own ideas around how you're approaching your business is, I guess, as a result of the training as well as the experience that I'm getting from actually working on the business. The last thing I wanted to mention in this video before I go is a long time ago, I was considering getting an MBA. And for whatever reason, somehow, a book came across my Audible feed called The Personal MBA by a guy named Josh Kaufman, a book I highly recommend if you're thinking about getting an MBA. And one of the biggest ideas that he drove home for me that resonated most deeply with me is that when you go to a school like Wharton's, Harvard Business School, INSEAD, you're looking at applying to programs that are only taking the best of the best. And what that means is you will have to have proven that you can be extremely successful without having had that MBA program. So a lot of these people will say like, oh yeah, that's why MBAs, everyone knows MBA is only for networking. And really, are you gonna spend $100,000 a year on networking? And even after reading the book, I still considered whether or not I wanted to get an MBA program. What I realized was that the only reason I would do it is because I wanted to work for a company like Boston Consulting Group or McKinsey. I wanted to travel the world and do consulting work, which, those companies tend to historically hire only from the best schools. I thought, maybe that's something I want to get into. But at the end of the day, I didn't have the cash, and it's sort of like a one, two, three punch. I didn't have the cash. I would be losing out on making that money. At the time, I was making maybe 150 a year. And then three, I'd have to take loans to pay back all the money that I had borrowed and with interest. I mean, we're talking about what would easily be like a 10-year actual financial commitment. So I decided not to do it. But it does make me wonder how much programs like Daily Mentor reflect that same kind of model, where if I can get to a million with my own understanding of how my business works and my own ability to know where to get information that I don't currently have, wouldn't that replicate the further I get along my path? I'm not going to be naive and assume that that's the case. As I said earlier, I think it's a whole different ballgame. Once you get past the millions into like the 10 millions realms, it's even daunting to think about managing that kind of money. However, I'm growing, I'm learning a lot, and who's to say what I will know at that point and what I'll feel confident being able to do. And the same goes for anyone watching this video. So hopefully this wasn't too much of a rant and that it makes sense and that there's some value that I can at least provide in my reflection on what I've been learning this past week. Thanks guys, and I'll see you next time.